Now, keep your texts and your comments coming in, please. 083 33 975. And if you want to call Laura Audrey on 051 846 123. Audrey is out there waiting for your calls. A lot of people have been phoning in still about cyberbullying. As we all know, cyberbullying is on the increase, Damien. It's happening at all levels. My own situation was a lifelong ex-friend of mine was taking and sending abusive texts late at night. She was always very, very nasty. I chose to ignore her. I basically got rid of her out of all my social media content and the abuse stopped. I eliminated her completely from my life. Other people texting in and WhatsApping in. Damien, the most important thing is that we be kind to people. Kindness is, we should practice what we preach. A lot of these websites talk about being kind and then people don't actually practice what they preach. Others saying, Damien, regarding the pellet gun, if anyone points a gun at you, regardless if it's a toy gun or a real gun, they should be dealt with in the same way. This is shocking and something needs to be done about it. And people talking about breakfast as well. William Smith from City Vets. If you were given a choice now of eggs for breakfast, what would you go with?
I think eggs Benedict would have to be my favourite.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
On what?
Lovely, freshly made pastry, a little bread, a croissant, or a little. Have to be just fresh and just cooked perfectly. Don't the eggs Benedict have to do it just right?
They're a difficult thing to do. Eggs Benedict.
Yeah, so sourdough and avocado and eggs Benedict, eggs on top, and then a little bit of mayonnaise on top of that. Then.
Oh, you're making me hungry now. Listen, thanks for coming in to us.
No, very welcome. Very happy to be here.
How are you getting on? Good.
Very good. Yeah.
Super.
Delighted to be back.
And speaking of breakfasts, when's the best time to feed a cat or a dog? Some people say you're better off to feed them in the morning. We heard Tom Doorley talking about breakfasts.
Yeah.
Should you feed an animal in the morning or the evening?
I think it's better to feed them twice a day.
Twice a day?
Yeah. So with dogs over a year old, you do have the option to feed them either twice a day or once a day. Up to 1 year old should be fed twice a day from 6 months to 1 year. I think it's better to feed them twice a day. Most dogs are hungry. Generally, dogs finish what you give them straight away, and I think it's quite a long time for them to wait for the meal if it's only fed once a day. So twice a day, I think, is the best time. Morning and evening.
And I suppose, like in terms of portions, do you give half a portion in the morning, half a portion in the evening, or how do you?
Yeah, that's right. Being inclined to split it up evenly. Yeah.
Are you one of these people that insists on dry food only? Should there be a little bit of wet food? What do you think?
No, I think personally, it's probably mostly dried food. 80% perhaps dried food, and then a little bit of for normal cat or dog, a little bit of wet food mixed up with that, just to provide not that they need it physically. I mean, if it's a complete good quality dried food, they don't need it, but just psychologically, it's nice. They enjoy it. They enjoy their food, and I think that does help to prevent some problems with like eating feces or eating inappropriate things because there isn't enough variety and taste in the diet. So I think it's good to feed mostly good quality complete dried food and then a little bit of tasty food in top of that.
Because some dogs will eat their own feces, won't they?
Yeah, it's actually quite common. And I mean, all dogs will eat cat feces. Seems to be really tasty stuff. It's perfectly normal for dogs. They'll all eat horse feces, which is a bit less disgusting, but still is a bit strange. And I think, so it's not a big step for them to eat their own feces after that. And I think some of it is for that reason. They just have, I suppose, evolved to have a taste for these really variety of flavours or really strong flavours, and I think that's probably what's behind it.
So you have to be careful, like if you have dogs and they're in the house and they're pet dogs and they're licking your face.
Oh, it's really disgusting. Yeah, like they come in and the smell from the breath, and it's just so horrible. Oh my goodness, it's just awful. Yeah. There's a bit of a disgusting story. I had a dog, and he liked that. He used to eat cat poo. And I also had a cat in the house, right? And one day the cat had a tummy upset, had a bit of diarrhea, right? So you know the way when the kids are quiet, you're always a bit suspicious, right? So one day we were kind of, where's the dog, right? And there's no sign of him, right? And next thing we heard is kind of scuffle out in the cat was the cat was obviously out in the litter tray doing his business. And next thing the dog came in, and he had cat poo on his head, right? Right, and we couldn't figure out how on earth that he got cat poo on his head, right? And eventually we reckoned. So he was actually so keen to get the cat the diarrhea the cat was having, right? He kind of mistimed it, right? And he went in too early.
That pooed on his head.
Yeah.
And he was there standing looking at you.
Yeah, he was there, look, oh, here I am, delighted with himself. What's that nice smell? Oh, my goodness.
Licking his chops.
Licking his chops, yeah.
Looking
slightly confused. He had this lovely smell, and he couldn't quite figure out where it was coming from.
And the poor old cat couldn't poo it.
Yeah, exactly. The cat didn't have any bit of dignity at all. There's times when you want to be on your own.
That leads us nicely into overweight pets and diarrhea. I suppose is one way of getting.
I don't know how we got onto that one, but
is one way of getting rid of the weight.
Yeah, and in terms of measuring out the food and so on. Yeah, so sometimes. I suppose what I was saying applies to pets generally, and I suppose that's how I've fed my own cat and dogs in the past. Dogs that have problems with being overweight, you should actually weigh out the food. That's a really important first step in getting an overweight dog under control or getting them onto the right diet. Is instead of giving, like, the worst thing is, just how much food you give them? I give them a handful. So you've no idea, basically. And a lot of people then use a measuring cup, which is better than a handful, but still isn't very accurate. So if your dog's actually on a weight loss diet, then you should be measuring the food out with a weighing scales. And obviously the tidbits then you have to be controlled or taken care of. So if your dog's overweight, the first thing to do is get control of the diet. Are
dogs a bit like, let's say dogs specifically, are they a bit like humans in the sense that if you give them more carbs, more heavy stuff, they will get heavier? Like, they're not going to eat fruit and veg, obviously, but are they like that? Is their digestive system something like ours?
Yeah. So the most of the weight loss diets are based on high fibre and high protein foods. They do try to reduce the carbs in dog diets for weight loss as well. And
a recent survey says 60% of dogs and 40% of cats are overweight. Obesity in dogs is growing. It's an epidemic, with 3 in 5 dogs now overweight.
Yeah, which is about the same actually as people. That's about the same rate as people in Ireland.
So are we trying to justify our own weight problems?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's interesting.
Passing it on to the dogs.
It is interesting. Yeah, I remember one of my lecturers in college had a nice phrase that your dog is your surrogate intestine. So if you can't eat yourself, you give it to the dog. But yeah, it took me a long time, and perhaps still haven't quite got to grips with the whole issue of being overweight in dogs. It seems very simple, doesn't it? So in people, obviously, we decide how much we eat and what we eat. So it's quite complicated. Whereas in dogs, it seems very simple. You give them the right amount of the right kind of food, and they should stay the right weight. But it obviously doesn't work like that, because you say 60%, or perhaps not quite as high as that. But anyway, a lot of dogs are overweight. So it turns out to be there's obviously this really complex interaction going on between the owner and the owner's food and the dog and the dog's food, and it's actually very challenging then for vets to get involved with, or to try to treat. It's really, really challenging disease to treat, because a lot of it's happening at home. It's not something you can really see what's going on when the dog comes to the clinic. You can't really see. There's a really nice example. The BBC a few years ago did a nice programme on obesity in pets. So they had this. I remember one case. It was a King Charles Spaniel, a bit overweight, and they just couldn't figure it out. So he'd been to the University of Liverpool. We're doing this really in-depth study into obesity, and he'd had X-rays done. He was 23.76% overweight, and he'd had his blood test done. His thyroid was normal. His bloods were normal. He was a perfectly healthy dog, a bit heavy. He was on a weight loss diet, and he wasn't losing weight. And the owners, man and woman, were there. They were really conscientious and really, really good owners. And they couldn't figure out either why he wasn't losing weight. So they sent a film crew round to the house. And they said, OK, the dog, he's on this weight loss diet, but he never eats it. Never eats any of it. And so they filmed the dog eating. And right enough, he ate a few nuts and left it alone then. Wouldn't go near it. And so they filmed him for the rest of the day then. They literally followed the dog around the house with the camera for the rest of the day. And the only time, so there was the man and the woman living in the house, and also the mother-in-law was living in a kind of a granny flat. Okay,
here we go.
So the only time the dog showed any bit of kind of energy in life was when the granny was getting her dinner brought down to her. Right? You see, so of course what the owners of the dog didn't know was that the granny, she was on her own. She was a widow, and I suppose she'd always been used to eating with her husband, and so she wasn't used. So when she was eating on her own. So she was basically she was getting half the dinner, and the dog was sitting beside her getting the other half. Right? So that's why the dog. So the solution then the way that then for the solution for that dog to lose weight was for the granny to come and eat with the rest of the family. So it's a lovely example of how complex that dog's weight problem was.
Yeah.
And how difficult it is then for vets to get involved in that. Even in terms of the language, you have to be really careful. People come in, and I'm always quite circumspect. I try to be polite, and it depends on the owner. You see, and sometimes you're there saying, "Well, look, your dog's body condition is a little bit above the optimal," And then some people,
your dog's body condition is a little bit above the optimal. I love that. That's good. Okay.
And some people then just say, "William, we know he's fat. What do we do about it?" And then other people are just totally in denial. There's one lovely phrase that a really nice client they used. They said they have the dog and he's a bit overweight, and so but it's not really that his body's too big. It's just his head and his legs are very small. And quite genuinely, and I thought it was lovely. It was lovely kind of phrase.
You've probably seen some examples, though.
Some of it's about people often do find it quite difficult to recognise when the dog is heavy, because I suppose it's changed quite slowly over time.
Mm.
So as far as they can remember, they've always been that size.
What was the worst example you've ever seen?
Yeah,
cat or dog?
Yeah, no, it was dog. There would definitely be dogs now. Really, I remember there was one dog, a kind of corgi kind of dog, and really like his belly was actually touching, as he walked, his belly was actually touching the ground. And I remember because I had to put him to sleep. At the end, he got old now, and it wasn't actually really weight-related problems. But anyway, he had to come into a bit of sleep, and of course he had these big rolls of fat all over his body. It was just massive, and there was no way I was going to get a vein on this dog. Do you know what I mean? And I think he'd heart problems as well, and so he was all kind of swollen up because of that, and there's just no chance of me getting a vein. So I was really worried, and the owner was very, very into the dog now, and so I was really worried about it. So to put a dog to sleep, you have to give them an anaesthetic injection into the vein, and there was no chance of it. So I did manage, and he went off to sleep very peacefully in the end. I sedated him, and actually the only way I could actually get any kind of into his blood circulation system at all was actually into the heart. So I actually sedated him, and then gave the injection actually directly into his heart to put him to sleep. But it was the only chance. So yeah, he was very, very, very overweight. But his belly, like if there'd been a bump on the road, he basically wouldn't have been able to get over it. He'd have been stuck in the middle.
These big long cars, these big
stuck on the
thing.
That's right. Actually, stuck his legs up.
Obama's car or Trump's car, coming out.
They had to remove the.
Couple of questions come in. My dog has a small black growth on her muzzle. It looks like a black wart. Should I take her to the vet? She's 9 years old. She seems fine. No weight loss or anything.
Yeah, I'd say just keep an eye on that one. Unless it's if it's not growing in size and it's not ulcerating, and the dog's not scratching at it, then I think you could probably just keep an eye on it. Yeah, I'd say if it doubles in size over 6 months, then you get it checked out. We take a little aspirate from it, pop a needle into it, and get some of the cells and just check them under the microscope and see if there's anything nasty. Dogs do get lumps and bumps as they get older. Most of them are benign, but obviously some aren't. So they're all worth keeping an eye on. And that's a nice way of doing it. Actually, get a little sample from it.
Woman has phoned in. She's a 15-year-old cat who eats in the morning, again at 11 at lunchtime, again in the afternoon and the evening. The only food she gives him is the stuff she buys from the vet. Never gives him tin food or wet food. Should she change or what she's feeding the cat? She's not saying what she's saying. She's implying it's overweight.
Yeah, the problems is that it's because it's heavy. Yeah, cats it's more difficult, and it's interesting actually. There is a relationship between the dogs being overweight and their owners being overweight. Okay, and sometimes you're kind of talking about the dog being a bit heavy, and you kind of nearly have to avert your eyes.
The optimal way.
You have to watch where you're looking like. But anyway, in cats there's not, which is interesting, isn't it? So in cats, I guess it's more perhaps environmental factors or genetic factors. And most cats, I suppose, can be fed ad lib, really, certainly with the dried food. Most cats, they just leave it down for the day, but not all. Some will overeat, and you have to start to measure it out. I don't think so. A useful thing in cats that are overweight, and perhaps the same is true in dogs, to try to get them a bit more active. Even a 15-year-old cat now, he's not going to be running up and down trees, but you can get little toys to hide the food in. So you put the food inside, so it kind of keeps them, it slows down the rate at which they eat and makes them busy. So you've got a little ball and there's tiny little holes in it that are just big enough for one pellet at a time to fall out of.
Have to work.
So yeah, they have to work, They have to work a bit. And it kind of keeps them entertained. It keeps them a bit busy.
Caller has a pet rabbit, asks, what's the best time of the day to feed a rabbit and how many times?
Well, it is a good question, actually. The pellets, I suppose, the pellets that you traditionally think of as being fed for rabbits actually aren't really good for them at all. Those are really designed for farmed rabbits. They're designed to basically fatten them up, ready to be eaten. Okay, so and it's not. They cause obesity and they also cause a lot of dental problems because rabbits' teeth grow continuously, so they have to spend a lot of time chewing to get the teeth worn down. So rabbits should be either grass is the best thing. Obviously, fresh grass not much at this time of year, but during the summertime, if you can get them out onto fresh grass, it's really good. They'll munch away at it all day. It's really good for the teeth. They get a lovely coat from it. They look really well on it. And if you think of wild rabbits, obviously what they're eating basically is just eat grass all day, and they never have dental problems. So pet rabbits, they should always have hay, good quality hay present for them and nibbling away at that all day. They should always have fresh lettuce or other vegetables to chew on, and maybe twice a day then you give them a small portion of the pellets. But pellets shouldn't be available ad lib for rabbits, or they will get overweight and they will get dental problems.
Okay, thank you. Any children listening to this morning, enjoy your pets, enjoy your animals, and make sure you feed them, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about this. I kind of blame toy manufacturers a little bit in terms of what people's perception of their pet size be, because you never see a skinny teddy bear, sure you don't.
No, you don't.
You know, so when you buy like a cuddly toy, it's going to be fat and it's going to have big eyes. And that's where you kind of have an expectation then their pets are going to be fat with big eyes. Yeah, and that's what's kind of normal. So yeah, maybe there's something there.
And watch the feces.
Yeah, or watch the cat poo.
William, thanks very much.
Always a pleasure.
City Vets for all your needs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Breed, I'm very sorry. She said she's eating her bowl of porridge, listening to the guy talking about cat poo. My stomach is turning. I can't finish my porridge. Breed, I'm sorry about that. Damien, my 5-year-old Cavachon chews his blanket sometimes. I think he swallows some of it. Can this be lodged or will he pass it? Yes, it will be past that, says William. A few other texts that came in, we didn't get a chance to read those out, but contact your vet about that. Now I'm going to go straight to Patricia. Have any problems on waiting lists? This will be very interesting for you. Patricia, good morning.
Good morning, Jamie.
Thanks very much for joining us. You're living just outside of Waterford City. Tell me a little bit about your situation, please.
My situation is I need cataracts done, and I was on to Waterford Regional yesterday to where I am on the wait list, and they told me I'm only 4 months. Now they have got 3 or 4 letters at this stage, so I don't know where they went over the past 2 years. So anyway, I said to her, she said, I'm sorry, that's where you are on the list at the moment.
So you need to get your cataracts done, and
I do, Jamie, yes.
And how is your sight at the minute, or how has it depreciated? It's not great, is it?
Not great, no.
Give me an example of how bad it is, or the things that you find difficult to do.
I find a lot of things difficult to do. I find reading difficult to do. The glasses at the moment are just not great now. And I mean, I was with the optician, so there's nothing, she can't change the glasses and put them any stronger than what they are. But I don't think, Damien, wait another 9, 12 months maybe, just to get on the ladder. And then when you're in there, you have to wait for another appointment. So, to me, it's crazy. Now, I was told yesterday that there's people waiting 4 years to have cataracts removed.
4 years.
Maybe longer. But I'll tell you something. I'm waiting 6 years to see a dermatologist out in the hospital.
6 years?
6 years, Damien, yes. And they sent me a letter the other day to know would I go to the bonds in Limerick. I hadn't a notion of going to the bonds in Limerick. And
what is the ailment regarding the dermatologist?
The ailment was I had leg ulcers.
Yes.
And they had sent me out to dermatology for the dermatologist to have a look at the leg. So 6 years. Where do you go from there?
How does this make you feel, Patricia?
Look, Damien, it makes me feel very cross and angry. The fact that I worked all my life, I paid taxes. at this hour of our life, I think we should be entitled to a little bit more treatment and a bit of dignity.
Have you heard of some politicians bringing people, I think, from Kerry and different places up to the north to get cataracts done?
That doesn't fish with me, because I'm a full-time carer for my husband.
Yes.
And they have to be somebody here 24/7. So that doesn't suit me. I'd have to get somebody in and pay them while I'm going to Belfast.
So not only do you have your own problems, you have to look after your husband, your full-time carer, and I presume that's stressful and that's very demanding in its own way.
It is, Damien, yes.
Your eyesight is failing. You have a dermatological waiting list for 6 to 8 years or 6 years, and now you haven't an idea when you're going to have your cataracts done.
Not an idea, Damien. I'm only 4 months, they tell me, on the list.
You're only 4 months on the list.
4 months, Damien.
Oh, dear me.
So there's people waiting 4 years, so that's as much as they tell me. Look, you're only 4 months on, so people 4 years, so they will be before you. And I said, what am I supposed to do? Well, she said, maybe go back to your GP. What is my GP going to do about it?
Yeah.
My GP is after writing 3 or 4 letters. So I don't know where they went over the last 2 or 3 years. The woman suddenly came to light in the last 4 months.
And when you saw all the politicians going around now in South Kilkenny and Waterford,
I didn't see anything, Damien, to be quite honest with you.
They didn't call to the house.
No.
And if when you see all the things on the telly now, and they're trying to make up their
yes.
What do you think about it all?
I think it's a load of I don't know, what would I say? But I definitely wouldn't like to see a Sinn Féin government in there, to be quite honest with you.
But Sinn Féin would say that they'd get all these things sorted. They'd say they'd get it sorted.
They're going to get the money.
Yeah. But if they can find the money to get your cataracts done and to get...
If they can find the money, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, here you are dependent on to have your cataracts done in the public hospital. I can go to the Whitfield, but I have to pay for it in the Whitfield.
Yes.
But why should I have to go to the Whitfield when I can have them done in the regional hospital?
Yes.
I can't. I have to get somebody in here if I have to go and get the cataracts done to look after my husband.
Yeah.
And Belfast is out for me.
And that's very, very difficult. What are you going to do?
I don't know, Jamie, what I'm going to do. I'd probably be gone blind by the time I get them done. Well, if I'm waiting for the next 9 to 12 months for them outside in the hospital, I don't know where I'll be.
I'll tell you what I'll do, Patricia. When we get off air, I'll take your details and we'll give the hospital a ring ourselves directly. I don't know if it'll make any difference, but we'll give them a ring directly, because that's scandalous.
It is, Damien. It is at this hour of your life. I'm a full-time carer, as I said, for my husband. All my family are away, so I don't have anybody to call on to, there's a carer comes in to him for 45 minutes, 5 days a week, just to shower him and that. And that's all the help I have.
Yeah. It's not fair, is it?
Not Jamie, no, it's not fair. It makes me very angry, to be honest with you. And the system is crap. I'm still waiting to go to see a neurologist out there. That's about 2 or 3 years ago. So where do you go from there?
So you're on 3 waiting lists.
Yes, and I'm also waiting to go to see a paediatrician, or not a paediatrician, Britain. It will come to me, Damien.
Yeah.
An adult. But that's the way it is out there. So, like, if you're waiting 6 years to see a dermatologist, what does that say? Now, I remember going back, my husband was in hospital, and he had a growth on his hand, and the only reason he could have had it done out there was because he was a patient there. Now, if he wasn't out there as a patient, he would either have to go to Cork or to Dublin. There was only a dermatologist came once a week from Cork at that stage out there, and that's going back about 3-4 years ago. So that'll tell you the mess our health system is in.
It will, yeah.
It's an absolute shambles.
Patricia, listen, thanks. Like I said, I'll take your details and we'll keep in touch, see if any...
Okay, Damien, thank you very much for that.
Damien, a relative of mine paid €2,000 at a local clinic to get his cataract done. Another caller saying that there's a bus from Cork that goes up once a month and collects people from Waterford to go to the Knightsbridge Hotel to get the cataracts done. The waiting lists are horrendous, says another person. Vicky Brown is a PhD researcher in the Queen Mary University in London. Do you know that Dunmore East is a town with the 5th largest population of UK nationals in the state, behind Killorglin and Kenmare and Kerry, Skibbereen and Cork and Ballahadreen in Roscommon? Vicky, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. Tell me a little bit about yourself, please.
Okay, I'm a PhD researcher at Queen Mary University in London in the School of Geography, and I'm currently doing research into English people who have moved to Ireland. And this research really comes from my own curiosity as somebody with an Irish mom, an English father. I was born in Scotland and brought up in Yorkshire, so I think my own kind of confusion over identity has influenced me researching this topic.
Your mum is from Cork, is she?
She is, yeah, West Cork.
West Cork, what part?
Right down near the Mizzen.
Oh, right, a long, long way away. Yeah. And so you've always had sort of an interest in Ireland, effectively? Yeah,
for sure. I visited here as a child, I'd say nearly every summer. And even as an adult, I've been coming back one, 2, 3 times a year. And all of my mum's family, without my mum, they're all still living here. So, yeah.
Very good. What's your mum's name? Will we say hello to her? We will?
We will, okay. She's called Sadie.
Now, one of the interesting things you found out so far is connecting with Waterford. Tell me a little bit about your research so far, what you found out.
Well, I found out quite a lot of different things, and so I had to do a bit of background research before jumping into the interviewing, and so part of that was looking at where people who've moved from England, where they've moved to in Ireland, as it were. And there isn't actually data that goes down as far as English people. It only goes as far as UK nationals. And looking at the towns in Ireland that have a lot of UK nationals, I believe it's the 4th one. It's the 5th largest population of UK nationals in the state outside of cities is actually in Dunmore East in Waterford.
Ah, and again, this could be a combination of Scots, Welsh and English. Does that would take in Northern Ireland as well, I presume?
I believe it would, yes.
Yeah, that's quite extraordinary. We know from Waterford's perspective that Dunmore does have a lot of people from outside of the area, and its Irish name is Gael Tír, which is the land of the foreigner.
Oh, okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah, so and the local GA team, the local Gaelic football team is and the club is known as that, the Gael Tír, and it's spelled the same way as Gautier. So some people will say Gautier as in Jean-Paul. But it's always had a close affinity and association with, I suppose, quite a wealthy section of population from England as well, in terms of some royal visits in the past. Mm-hmm. Have you done any investigations into that yet?
Not a great deal, because I didn't want to get many preconceived notions before coming. And also I'd quite like the surprise, because I don't know if many of your listeners would be 2nd or 3rd generation Irish people. If they are, you often find that you come to visit your relatives and you don't get to see much of the place other than the place where your relatives live. I often call it a bingo game, where I have to get around and see all the relatives before I then go back to England. So part of this is really good in that I'm going to get to visit different areas of Ireland that I've never been to before. And so whilst I've done a little bit of background on things like statistics, I haven't really looked up a lot more else. I'd like to find that out in person.
And this PhD research, will it combine, it sounds like you're telling me it's going to combine obviously the stats with, I suppose, more localised specifics in terms of why certain percentage of the population may have relocated there. So I suppose it will. How deeply are you going to delve into different social experiences over the centuries?
I'd like to do that quite deeply, really. There will be a bit of background statistical information in the introduction to the PhD. But the main thing really that I'd like to do is speak to people about their own experiences and their own motivations. So rather than being a large statistical piece of work, it's very much driven by people's, the things that they've been through, the decisions that they've made, and things like just how they've built a home here, whether that's physically or socially or through work or through education. That's the kind of thing that I'm interested in finding out.
And what sort of time frame are you looking at, Vicky, in relation to this?
Well, I hope to be interviewing for the next few months, going up to the summer at least, and maybe into the summer. And then once I have all of the interviews, I have to go back to London and I have to type all of them up, every single conversation, and analyse them and then start putting it together into the actual thesis, which is what I'll be examined on. And hopefully I'd be submitting that in about 18 months' time. Okay.
And what's the best way for people to contact you? I presume email, maybe?
Yeah, email would be fantastic. My email address is victoria.brown@qmul.ac.uk.
Okay, just call that out again. Victoria, that's Victoria .Brown, BROWNE.
No E.
BROWN at QM.
UL. .ac.uk.
.ac.uk. We'll put that up on our website as well. In terms of people's experiences, are you looking at people that have moved recently, for example, to Ireland, or in the last 50 years, or people that would have had, for example, I did a fair bit of research for a historical society here regarding the Great War and Irish men and women that died during the Great War, but specifically people that went over and fought for the army at the time, and the connection there. So how far back are you going? What sort of stories are you looking for?
Well, I'm looking to interview people with their living memories, I suppose. So I've put a date of from 1960, but of course if anybody is out there who's moved there before 1960 and would like to speak to me, then that would be great. And as recently as I've spoken to people here, I'm in County Cork at the moment, and I've spoken to people that have moved as recently as a year ago. So I'm looking for that real broad kind of spectrum. I'm really interested personally in the historical aspect myself as well, but unfortunately I have to stick to this particular bit of the project for the time being, and maybe I can do a bit more on the history after as a future research project.
Yeah. No, that's and you may find within that recent history somebody will reference times past where their great-grandfather or granny or whoever may have some particular connection with it. And it's obviously very politically pertinent at the minute regarding Brexit.
Yes, it is. And one of the things I am interested in, particularly for people who might have been living in Ireland for quite a long time, is whether their own feelings about Englishness or other people's perceptions of their Englishness have changed at different times. So, for example, during periods of the Troubles and, like you say, Brexit, all things that would be brought up, I think, quite, recent and past history as well. So, yeah.
So the email address again is victoria.brown, BROWN, at qmul.ac.uk. And if anybody doesn't have an email address or wants to get in touch with us here, they can contact us here at the radio station, and they know the number 051 846 123, and we'll put them in touch with you. Vicky, thank you very much, and good luck with your research.
Thank you very much.
What have you, any interesting anecdotes you found out so far?
One thing that's come up quite a lot is different foods that people have missed over the years. And I think, of course, people can get much of the same here now that they could before. But yeah, there's crisps seem to have come up quite a lot. That's quite a funny one.
What, Walker's crisps as opposed to Tato, is it?
Not so much that, but the flavours. And, here Tato crisps, they come in, their cheese and onion comes in a blue packet. But in England, that would come in a green Sorry, I've got that the wrong way.
No, yeah, cheese and onion. Yeah, it would be in a red packet, whereas in England it's the blue packet, the blue Walker's packet. Yeah,
exactly. And if you don't like cheese and onion crisps like I don't, then that's a little bit of a shock when you open them.
Yeah, and I always used to find, because I've a lot of relatives in Britain, particularly in England, and ready salted crisps in the red Walker's packet. No taste for ready salted crisps. They're so bland, and yet they're very popular in the UK, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, and they wouldn't be my favourite either. They're very oily, and I prefer the Tato, to be honest. But yeah.
And what about brown sauce and Worcester sauce and different? What other foods?
Somebody mentioned Branston pickle to me.
Branston pickle, yeah. Well, you can get that here now, but
and green Tabasco.
Green Tabasco. Yeah.
Apparently there's only red Tabasco in a lot of the shops. But, I mean, this could be very Cork specific. I don't know.
It could be. Listen, Vicky, pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
You too. Thanks very much.
The Technology and Innovation category is sponsored by Dawn Meats. First of the nominees is Erigal, an enterprise software company specialising in network operation, automation and management. Headquartered in San Francisco, the organisation has its entire operations, engineering and research and design teams in Waterford. Anthony Ryan is Erigal's Director of Operations.
Erigal is a company that's been established in Waterford for many years. It was founded about 2 decades ago. Our CEO, Pádraig Tobin, is from Ireland, but has a strong connection with Waterford. And he is very aware of the technology scene. So when he was starting up a R&D team, started up in the ARC Labs in TSSG in Carriganore. And he formed a team of R&D experts to work with like-minded individuals. From there, we have become a leading company in the providement of network management operation software. We cover everything from distributed antenna systems, smart meters, environmental sensors, power and generators, which essentially means if it's got an electronic pulse, we try and monitor it. And we make it available for our customers. Erigal is a small company, but we are growing. We are looking at new roles and new opportunities this year. We've some open roles on our website at present, with more coming in the next couple of months. Currently, we're at 30 in the company, mixture between full-time and part-time staff. And at the moment we have, I think it's 4 roles up on the website, and we're hoping to grow that as we move through the year. Because of our track record here in the Southeast, 70% of our engineers come out of WIT, and we find that we get very capable, highly qualified engineers, and that allows us to do and continue our R&D, and that's why we got recommended for the Innovation Award.
Erigal software is currently used for monitoring a variety of entities, including sports stadiums, corporate campuses, airports, office buildings and much more.
Our main customers are all based in North America, scattered from East Coast to West Coast. We have some opportunities growing in South America at present, and the possibility of other countries coming too. Our customers' industries are very varied. They work in telecommunications, carriers and towers, to smart cities, public safety and building management, and of course the latest IoT of things. Erigal has a very strong R&D background. We founded in ARC Labs in an R&D mantra. So we've been doing that for many, many years in both the operational support systems and the distributed antenna systems. Our engineers, 70% of them are WIT graduates, and they are the first to develop the command and control function for the new wireless network for smart electric metering. Our new products, My Knock in a Box and the tower management, allowed us to innovate on the million device management. So we're constantly trying to do new things, be first in class, best in class, and bring forward new ideas to our clients.
Next in the category is Enerpower. Enerpower is the industry leader in energy efficiency and renewable technologies. Founded in 2005, they're committed to using biomass fuel, solar panel technology and wind energy to ensure that businesses will save money on heating and energy to take control of energy efficiency. Owen Power is the Managing Director of Enerpower.
When we started back in 2005, it was just before the recession hit, so we would have been involved with a lot of developers putting heating systems into residential developments. As everyone knows what happened then, that whole market crashed and we were left with, I suppose, not many choices. But in our experience that we'd gained working with the developments, putting in heating systems into them, wood chip boilers was one of the areas that I suppose we thought would have potential to grow in Ireland. we pursued that business and we were successful with that business, and we have over 100 biomass boilers now operating in the country. After that, one of our customers approached us and asked would we be interested in looking at a wind turbine for them. It was a mushroom farm. That started us off in the wind turbine business, and now we have over 20 large commercial wind turbines operating for organisations like Tesco, Flavins here in County Waterford. Keypack would be the meat producers. Following on from the wind turbines, we moved into the solar PV market about 4 years ago. We've a number of large commercial solar farms, I suppose, now in operation. The biggest being for Lidl, their new distribution centre in County Kildare, which is a 5,000 panel array, which would be the biggest solar array in Ireland by a factor of 3. I suppose we'd have 20 to 30 people employed at any one time. Some of those would be directly employed and some would be subcontractors. Enerpower
believe that by focusing on renewable energy resources, businesses can reduce their carbon and greenhouse gas emissions to the environment, as well as saving them money.
So there's a lot of grants and incentives now that the government are giving to people to switch over to solar panels. The one thing, I suppose, where solar panels differ from wind turbines is that, I suppose, solar panels can go on any roof. There isn't as much planning issues about them because they're largely unseen really on roofs. Every business and every home can benefit from solar panels. But we would service from Belfast to Kerry. We also operate over in the UK. Our clients here would have IKEA would be in Belfast. In Kerry we'd work with Kerry County Council. We'd have a number of Tesco stores all the way around the country where we provide heat into the stores. Here in County Waterford we would have Arkeen stores out in Dunmore Road as one of our customers. John Flavin, Kilmacthomas would have a wind turbine from us, and you'd also have a large solar panel array as well with us. Grantstown Nurseries out in Ballygunner there, who they grow tomatoes under glass. David Curd would have put up solar panels with us last year. So there is a few customers around Waterford as well, but we actually cover the whole country from Donegal to Wexford and Belfast down to Kerry. We have a lot of projects on for the next 12 months, solar and biomass and wind. Suppose we have in the biomass area, we're just completing a very large project for a pallet manufacturer in County Laois at the moment, and we're over in the UK working with a pharmaceutical company called Charles River Laboratories in Margate just outside London. So those projects are keeping us busy now for the next 12 months.
Next, it's Red Hat. In 2014, Red Hat put Waterford on the global tech map with the acquisition of local company Feed Henry. It was acquired by global giant IBM in 2018. They're the world's leading provider of enterprise open source solutions, using a community-powered approach to deliver high-performing technologies. James Merlin is Director of Engineering at Cloud Services, Red Hat.
We've been very fortunate that we've received an amount of inward investment from other parts of Red Hat into the region. The management team here and the team more widely would have invested heavily in helping some of those early hires to be quickly successful. The hiring managers that are based globally would like who they see, what they get. They're very happy with the talent pool, quality of life here and the general region, and that has permeated across other parts of Red Hat, which has enabled other people to continue to invest in the office here, and it's just grown organically from there. And Red Hat is a heavily distributed company with offices worldwide. I think they're in 35 offices in 90 countries at this stage or more even. And it continues to grow as a company globally. But it's often the case that a hiring manager sets out to hire somebody in Europe and ends up having dipping their toes in the Waterford market, finds a nice candidate, hires them, and it's an added bonus. They're okay if they work from home. They're just as okay if they work from the Waterford office. It doesn't make any difference. It's very much a distributed culture right across the company, but that has helped also to create some other growth opportunities here in Waterford for us and for the region generally. There is a lot of market change, but I think the DNA of the companies in software engineering, and we've lots of prowess and expertise in that area in Waterford. Our links to WIT are very strong there. We will regularly keep in contact with some of the lecturers and give them guidance on some extra modules they could be introducing, which helps with the onboarding of our new staff. We do a lot of internships. We've been very successful in that regard as well, and we've established a very strong graduate pipeline coming out of WIT and have hired in excess of 90% of interns that have been with us, which is a fantastic story. Red Hat's a very open company. It's very easy to connect with new technologies and new projects. Lots of the staff here are involved with other software communities in the open source market, and that helps them to keep sharp. And Red Hat is quite good at sharing some of the projects they're working on and some of the innovations happening in that space as well.
He says they're delighted with the nomination at the Waterford Business Awards and the support locally.
This is our second year being shortlisted, and we're thrilled again to be included among such other companies for this year. Very proud to be based in Waterford. It's a great growth and success story. We've almost doubled in size since Red Hat originally came to Waterford back in 2014. It's very important that you come to work every day, you do your job, but there is a good support network around technology in Waterford. We have a number of tech meetups that happen in the city on a monthly basis, and staff here would participate in those either through sitting in the audience, or we'd often have somebody presenting at them. So you would meet the same cohort of people around the technology. The internet generally makes it very easy to share what's going on, and people like each other's tweets and so on, and there's a good social media vibe across the technology sector locally. Initiatives like Crystal Valley Tech help as well in attracting candidates to relocate from other parts of Ireland or internationally to come to Waterford.
And those are your shortlisted nominees in the Technology and Innovation category. The winner will be announced on Friday, February 28th at the Tower Hotel.
Thank you very much for all your texts and comments. Thanks to Julie and Maria for producing this morning. And Jeff is up next. We'll talk to you tomorrow.